everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of the Loud Casa Talks. My name is Nate, and alongside is my good friend Omid.
Hey, what's up, Loud Crown and Casa Crew? How y'all doing?
And today we have ourselves a special guest. You may know him on Twitter as a huge Loud House and Casagrandes fan. Today we have him here today as a reviewer of these Casagrandes episodes. So I want to welcome Vincent. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey guys, happy to be on board. I'm very excited to be here today.
Most definitely. All right. So first off, we always want to see how everyone's doing, knowing how the world is right now. But anyways, how's everybody doing right now?
Oh, I'm doing okay myself. Still busy with work, but also pretty much still keeping in touch with friends, including yourself, Nate, and also been binging the hell out of Persona 5 Strikers still. I've even played the old Persona games as well. Recently, about a couple weeks ago, I actually booted up my old PlayStation 3 because I wanted to play Personas 3 and 4 since I got so addicted to P5 Royal. And let me tell you, this time, I was hooked on all three of them. And I managed to pretty much beat the dungeons I was aiming to, Persona 4, I beat Shadow Kanji. Persona 3, nice. I beat the monorail. And Persona 5 Strikers, I'm still in Alice's Palace, but that's all I'm going to say. Keep it that.
FYI, I'm not even there yet. I'm still streaming, but I'm just being really lazy. Anyways, how are you, Vincent?
I'm doing good. I'm just keeping myself at balance between class and for free time. But yeah, just keep things cool, and always good to keep it with everybody here on Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, just keeping up with a lot of stuff that's going on, and a lot of shows that are coming for me up to watch, because there's a lot that I'm excited about that's coming.
That's really good. For me, I'm just working as always. It's just more of me just trying to find the right time for me to actually have some free time and actually play video games or just hang out and stuff. I know that things are about to be lifted here in California, which means that, okay, we can actually go and do stuff again, like eat out at restaurants, go to movie theaters, and all that good stuff. But I'm still kind of iffy. I mean, bro, Nate, you might be different. You might be different.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, let's actually just go straight ahead into our episode reviews, because we have 8 episodes that came out that last 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be reviewing all of them. Yes, all here as much as we can. Hopefully we will be here for 2 hours and 30 minutes or longer than that. But let's see how it all goes down. Anyways, so let's start off with the first episode. It's called No Egrets. The synopsis here is: Sergio is in for a treat when a group of baby birds think he's their mama. All right, so Omid, I'll start off with you first. How do you like Sergio being a father to these baby birds?
Now, while it is an interesting take with Sergio being a mama, in a sense, I gotta be honest, it does feel a bit out of place for a character like Sergio, considering well, he is Sergio, and let's just say he's not exactly a parental type character, if you know what I mean.
Okay, how about you, Vincent? How do you like Sergio as a daddy?
Well, this episode, it's kind of an interesting idea to explore for Sergio, but I don't know if this is necessarily. I don't know if this really fits Sergio's character, because we all know how he is in the past episode. Because he's being selfish and all, and I don't know if this episode was trying to. I think this episode is trying to challenge him and see how when it comes to parenting. So there you go.
I'm kind of less surprised about what Sergio did, but then again, it's kind of like how Sergio is. He's kind of a jerk, and I love the fact that he's trying his best to take care of these baby birds. I mean, what did he do? Give him food, try to find food, or give him bird bath, or try to fly. I mean, that's kind of the basic stuff. But then again, you get to see Sergio as just a basic party bird, so he'll go back to partying, but then again, in his heart, he still takes care of those baby birds. So I kind of feel kind of sympathy for Sergio, knowing that he gave birth, quote unquote, gave birth to these birds and had to take care of them. But this leads me to the next point here. Do you guys did this episode change your aspect at who Sergio is now? I want to start off with Vincent.
I don't think it would really change my ask on Sergio, because there's a chance that we'll see him be selfish, being selfish, and all being Sergio. No, I don't know if this episode redeems that one moment from bad luck. Should I mention it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The one time when Sergio murdered the chicken. I don't know if this episode necessarily redeems him from that, but I don't know. I mean, so Sergio did seem to kind of care at the very end, but I don't know if I don't think this really changes my opinion on Sergio. I don't think so.
How about you, Omid?
Well, okay. Now, if by changing aspect you mean changing the fact that Sergio is nothing more than a plot device that only serves as an obstacle standing in the way between Casagrandes and their goals in their episodes, if by changing aspect you mean changing the fact that Sergio murdered a chicken, for crying out loud, no, it doesn't change my aspect of the character, but it is nice to see his more nurturing side, though. Plus, I give him credit where credit is due, I guess. Yeah. Devil is due? Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay, so my thing is that, yeah, he's murdered a chicken. We understand that. That was like one of the first episodes of in season 2 with Bad Cluck. But the other thing, too, is like, I can't really see if he's like honest or anything. Like, he's an all circular character, to say the least. Like, he could be good sometimes, he could be bad sometimes, he could be a jerk sometimes. So there's really, I don't know how to say this, but I've been seeing episodes of Sergio where he's just continuing to be a jerk, and I'm like, there's no point in me actually thinking of me liking you. But I mean, this episode right here just tells me that he had a little heart when it comes to these baby birds, and I like the fact that like in the middle of it all, he takes care of them, like there's their babies, like their baby mom, like their mom. And then at the end, like when he was about to give away those birds, I was kind of like heartbroken. Okay, I understand Sergio's a little heartbroken, but at the end, it also was that part where they were like all party birds, and I'm like, okay, I guess all birds party. I don't know what, but it just feels like birds love to party in the Casagrandes.
Yeah, birds are the real party animals, apparently.
Although I do want to say this though, Sedanican vibes for Sedanican vibes for not Sedanican. Sedani vibes for those who actually were watching the episode, because look, it was supposed to be an experiment for Sid and Ronnie Ann. They're taking care of baby birds. It kind of feels like their moms taking care of birds, right? Am I right, guys?
Pretty much.
Okay. All right. Besides that, anything else you guys want to talk about in this episode?
Man,
me?
Sorry, you want to go?
Okay, I was waiting for you to go, but okay, I guess I have the floor. So, hey, why not? Now, all I'm gonna say is, before anyone thinks this episode is a saving grace for Sergio, let us never forget Bad Cluck. Never forget he killed his former friend. Just never forget. Okay. Because I know that the spirit of the chicken certainly won't. Oh, and also the fact that I want to bring up is that honestly, this episode could have been much, much better if instead of Sergio taking care of the birds, honestly, it should have been Ronnie and Sid themselves. Because I can guarantee you, they would have done a much better damn job of taking care of these two baby birds than Sergio would have.
Although to be honest, I would actually love that. I mean, everyone would love that even more if we actually saw the episode where Sid and Ronnie Ann actually took care of them.
Two gay moms taking care of their babies. It's so sweet, right?
How about you, Vincent?
Yeah, I don't like I said, I don't know if this episode redeems Sergio after murdering a chicken, but yeah, I thought that this episode was good to see Sergio trying to be more responsible, more caring, not just for himself, and of course, Ryan and Sid. I feel like, if we saw them a little bit more, that'd be cool. And but yeah. Also, Sid named those Egrets after Yun Kwan, which shouldn't be a
Come on.
surprise.
I'm not surprised on that.
Yoon and Kwon. Yoon and Kwon.
Look, I'm not surprised on that, just because they were obsessed with 12 is Midnight, which, by the way, leads to our next episode. But
Yeah. But so yeah, this episode was a good concept to explore for Sergio. Not my favorite, but it was a pretty good episode to watch.
it was a more tolerable episode than Bad Cluck. Okay.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap this up here. So how would you rate this episode? Omid, I'll start off with you.
Well, for this, I'm actually going to give this a 7 out of 10. It's a cute episode featuring a not so cute parrot.
Okay. How about you, Vincent?
Yeah, I say that a 7 out of 10. I mean, it was a good episode, but Search is still not my favorite. But again, the idea of this episode was pretty good. It was good.
All right, cool. And I actually, like I said, I had some leniency towards Sergio because he was trying his best to be a father. But at the end, I mean, still Sergio. I mean, like, it's a good concept to actually make us like Sergio even more. But it's still not enough considering what happened to Bad Cluck. So I have to say, I give it a 7 out of 10 as well. I mean, look, it was pretty decent. It's not as bad as Bad Cluck. It just gives me more heart for Sergio in his case when he was trying to take care of those baby birds. But, at the end, he's still going to be that party bird that, he'll be hanging out with all those pigeons and probably has a new posse now because that mother also knows how to party. Like I said, birds know how to party. So I don't know. Maybe there's another episode where Sergio and the mama bird just starts to party all together.
Every bird in Great Lakes is a party bird.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to get now. Okay, so let's go ahead and move over to our next episode, Meal Ticket. Synopsis here is Ronnie Ann and Sid help Casey run his food truck at a Yun Kwan concert. Okay, so that's why we're leading on to another 12 is Midnight stuff here. Okay, yes. So first off, a lot of Sidani vibes here. A lot of people who love Sidani is absolutely amazed with this. I mean, I'm impressed with the fact that like a lot of Sid and Ronnie and moments in this, and I'm pretty happy about it. I want to ask you guys, how did you like the Sidani vibes from this episode? Omid, we'll start off with you.
Honestly, the Sidani aspect of it was what I was hyped for the most in this episode. And on top of that, it's also the duo going to see their favorite K-pop band, 12 is Midnight. And this episode could have turned out to be perfect. It could have turned out to be a 10 out of 10 had it not been for the one big problem I have. The one elephant in the room. No, scratch that. It's not an elephant in the room per se, but rather it's a different sort of animal. And let's just say having this character was a certain foul on this episode.
Oh my god. We get it. We get it.
I'm going to touch upon. But other than that, the episode was great overall. So don't think I hate this episode. I love this episode, but I just hate that one aspect I'll be talking about later.
Okay, by the way, we were talking about Sergio in the last episode. Now we're going to talk to him again about this in this episode, I guess. I get it. Sergio's going to be a big talking point today. Is that how it's going to be?
Yes.
Okay. How about you, Vincent? How are you liking the Sidani vibes?
Yeah, a lot of cute Sidani moments in there, especially when it comes to Yun Kwan. Like Raya and Sid are great duo in this episode. It's so cute, and I think that this episode would be absolutely perfect if it just of course this episode would have been possible if it would for that one parrot that screwed up those tickets.
Although, yeah, if he didn't actually screw up those tickets, then it would have been like an episode where it's just more of Ronnie Ann and Sid just hanging out in a concert with the 12 is Midnight, which, by the way, I think would have been a better episode to say the least. But I mean, I guess struggles come to play, and Ronnie Ann and Sid have to go through Casey's truck in order for them to actually watch the 12 is Midnight concert. I mean, yeah, a little bit more adventurous of an episode, but to be honest, I mean, like, I think I would get more Sidani vibes if Sergio wasn't there, but I think everybody knows that by now. Then again, he's pretty much everywhere in this episode too. Like, okay, Sergio, messed up with that Wi-Fi router. Oh, Sergio was about to Sid and Ronnie Ann were about to go into the 12 is Midnight concert and actually dance with them, but apparently Sergio was the one who messed up the car. So a lot of factors about this bird. But there would have been more Sidani moments, I would imagine, if they, if Sergio wasn't there. Although the other thing too that I really liked about it is just the fact that, like, they would have gone each one by one just to watch the concert. But at the same time, I mean, I remember like Ronnie Ann was about to go out to the concert, but then Sid had to go in the truck. What she said was like, I can't watch this concert without you. And I felt that vibe right there. Okay, you two are like lovebirds and stuff. I can't on this one. That was cute. That was absolutely cute, those two. But there have been like amazing friends, and just the fact that these two are just continuing to love each other and just become best friends and watch 12 is Midnight and do a lot of other things. I must say, it's awesome to just see something like this. But yeah, Sidani vibes all over the place. I love Sid, I love Ronnie Ann. They're both great characters. So I want to ask you, how did you like having Casey and his dad and knowing more about the family business that they run? Omid?
Yeah, I have to say this. It was good to see Casey playing a role on his own in an episode like this, because with Casey, we usually see him only when he's with the squad, sort of like as a background sort of character. So when I learned about Casey, his dad, and his Cubano sandwich food truck, it actually made me feel proud of Casey and how well he does in helping his dad out with his business, like at his young age. So it actually makes me want to have more episodes featuring Casey and his dad. And honestly, I think Casey has potential to hold up his own episode revolving around that.
Sounds good. How about you, Vincent?
Yeah, I thought Casey did some part in this episode, and it was nice to get to know his dad. Let's know that he's half Cuban, and with the sandwich business. I think there's some potential that Casey could have his own episode at some point, but yeah, it's pretty cool to explore Casey's a little bit of Casey's family race.
Cool. I must say though, I know that we met up with Casey's dad back in a very Casagrandes Christmas. So it was going to be a while. It was going to be sooner or later that we're going to expect more about Casey's dad and the Cuban was it the panini food truck that he was running. So. Yeah, I mean, we saw him in a very Casagrandes Christmas, and now we see him in this episode, and I think it was actually pretty good that we were able to see a little bit more of who Casey is with his dad who runs a food truck, and just Casey being just a person who's just in the back, just working with his dad. So I'm guessing the family bonding there with Casey and his dad is there, and I think that was pretty heartwarming to say. Let's see, what else do you guys want to talk about in this episode?
Okay. Firstly, I really do love the 12 is Midnight hug. 12 is midnight, 12 is midnight.
It's cute. It's a tiny moment here. It's a tiny moment.
Also, the return of Reizuko was good, but now is the perfect time for me to talk about my big issue with this episode. What prevented it from being a 10 out of 10 overall. Yes, we're going there. This is it. This is where I talk about it. Now, as I said before, this episode would have been a perfect Sidani episode, a 10 out of 10 Sidani episode, had it not been for one thing: Sergio. Oh God, Sergio. Why? After having such a sweet episode that puts you in a good light, you had to do this. You had to ruin Ronnie and Sid's chances of getting the getting the tickets. You had to openly mock Ronnie and Sid and rub your VIP plot convenience tickets in their faces. And you had to ruin Casey's dad's Cubano truck, which up and crushed Yoon Kwon himself. Therefore, he could have had all his bones broken because of your foul play.
Wow.
Why? What did we do here? See, stuff like this is why I don't like Sergio. He's the Flip of the Casagrandes, because just like Flip, Sergio is a plot device that only serves to make things harder for the other characters. And what makes it worse here is that he doesn't get any consequences for his actions. None. Zilch. That's the worst thing. If it weren't for him messing things up, if it weren't for him being in this godforsaken episode, then none of this would have happened, and Ronnie and Sid would have seen the concert easily. You know something? I'm actually kind of hungry. You know what?
Oh my God, what are you doing?
I'm so hungry. I am in the mood for a Cubano sandwich with a side order of bird soup tonight.
Oh my God, bird soup!
Oh man, it's gonna taste.
I'm gonna get some chicken. I'm gonna grab some chicken later. You know, add some chicken noodle soup. You know, it's really cold out there, so let's just imagine it being a Sergio soup. I don't know. This is so. I think in today's I think from this episode, it's just the level of how Omid hates Sergio just got higher for some reason.
It's like hey, I take all the redeemable qualities from Noah Egrets gone just because of this episode. It's like it's back to back too. That's what kind of bothers me about it. It's just they're both sister episodes. So yeah, it's like
so
all the
you want to have a good side with Sergio, you want to have a bad side with Sergio.
Well, there was a good side, but then even at that, it's completely tarnished by how he portrayed in this episode and all the episodes before No Egrets. So
I'm not gonna say anything further. The fact that you actually compared Sergio to Flip was the thing. That was something. I'm like, what? Really? All right. How about you, Vincent? What else do you want to talk about in this episode?
Well, of course, that's the Donnie. That's the Donnie hug was very, very, very cute. Lots of Donnie fans are gonna kick out of that, and also some interesting things about Yoon Kwon. Of course, we know that Justin Chan voiced him in this episode instead of Eric Nam.
Yeah.
And then Natalie, Wyoming Parmesan, pointed out that Justin Chan was from the Twilight Saga, which is kind of an interesting thing to know.
Actually, yeah, I think I got pointed. I know about that too. I think Natalie did talk about this during our Casa Lives. And the thing is, it kind of sucks that Eric Nam, who is actually a K-pop star, didn't actually appear in this. But then again, K-pop stars may tend to be busy, may get their role and then probably lose it. But the fact that they still had a person that would help out and voice Yoon Kwon was good. And he's just one little significant appearance. I just wish that we actually have a real 12 is Midnight concert where Sid and Ronnie Yan have a quote unquote date going out to without any hassle, go to a 12 is Midnight concert and have a fun time. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, it could have been perfect.
But Sergio had to ruin it all. Okay, I get it. Sergio's bad.
I said, great episode though.
It is great. It is great. I don't know what else to say about the episode. All I can say is I feel for Sid though, because she poured gravy over her head because she couldn't get her tickets, and I'm like, girl, oh,
it's just like a sad mashed potato.
I know. See how cute she is. All right. Anyways, how would you rate this episode? I'll start with you, Vincent.
I give this episode a 9 out of 10.
Wow, nice.
This episode executed really well, with the exception of Sergio.
All right, how about you, Omid?
For me personally, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. overall, it was a really great episode. It was just so nice to see, the K-pop atmosphere, the K-pop concert atmosphere down like between the K-pop band themselves, between the crowd, between the food trucks, between all the buzz and stuff. Yeah, overall, just a great episode. Oh, and also, I'll have a Cubano sandwich with a side order of bird soup, please.
Oh my god! I think we're gonna get hungry after this, knowing that it's almost dinner time here in our area. I gotta give this an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it is kind of lacking the fact that Sergio had to ruin everything, but the thing is that I still feel the fact of Sidani vibes, and just the fact that these two are great friends. They're enjoying a concert. They had to go through a lot of struggles for them to actually go to a concert like 12 is Midnight, and it's great to see that. But yeah, if Sergio wasn't there, then it would have been much better, I must say. So yeah, 8 out of 10. That's still not like, terrible or anything. But yeah, 8 out of 10 for me for meal ticket. So let's head over from Sidani vibes to Sidanican vibes. It's time for the episode that aired on Tuesday, an Udder Mess. Let's start it off here. Let's talk about it. So it's synopsis here is Ronnie Ann must decide between her best friend, Sid, and Lincoln. So we were all anticipating on this episode. There was a lot of hype about it. Before the episode aired, there were so many posts from even the voice actors themselves, like Isabella Alvarez, you get Leah May Gold, and even Asher Bishop was talking about this episode. So I want to ask you guys, let's start off with Vincent first. How hyped were you for this episode?
Oh, absolutely hyped. The moment that we found out that Udder Mess was turning out to be a Sidonican episode, I screamed my head off. Because I'm the most, probably, I don't know if so, I'm probably the most diehard Sidonican fan, and to have our first episode. Yes, I was super excited for this one. Yeah. Let's see. I go further, but should we?
Yeah,
wait a little bit.
But yeah, okay, that's fine. How about you, Omid? How about you hyped for this episode?
Oh, I myself was hyped too. Like, oh my god, we're finally seeing this. Ronnie Ann, Sid, and Lincoln in an episode together again since Horoscope. Yes. Let's just say I was just as excited for this episode as I was for all three of them going to Dairyland together. But it turns out to be easier said than done for our Great Lakes City girl.
For sure. All right, so let's actually start talking about this episode. How did you love the Sidonican moments that were happening in this episode? Let's start off with you, Omid.
Oh my god, like the Sidonican moments, they were just so wonderful. I do wish that we would have had more of those, but then again, Ronnie Ann does try to find a way to get to Dairyland without the two knowing that she had to pick one or the other. So, but then we get moments with Sid and Lincoln, playing together, and you could tell that they do get along very well. And I do love the fact that Lincoln and Sid are not competitive at all when this happens. They just want to have fun with their mutual best friend. And when Ronnie Ann reveals that she couldn't choose between Sid or Lincoln, I love how the two react. They would have been like we would have loved. I would have loved to gone to Dairyland, but I would have understand why you had to choose the other. But because keep in mind, Lincoln and Sid are the two friends that made a huge aspect in Ronnie Ann's life. Lincoln made a huge aspect in Ronnie Ann's life when she was living in Royal Woods, and Sid made a huge aspect in Ronnie Ann's life in Great Lakes City. So when you really do have to choose between your Royal Woods bestie and your Great Lakes City bestie, let's be honest, it can be very challenging. And I think we've all been there where we've had a this or that situation. Well, like particularly when we had to choose which friend to take to where.
I think we all had that situation, so makes sense there. How about you, Vincent? How do you like the Sidonican moments that were happening in this episode?
Oh man, everything about those moments just it means so much to me. Because Ryan's best friend from Royal Woods, and then her best friend in Great Lake City. Them together, it just means so much to me. this challenge, but having to choose between your two best friends, it is a kind of a challenge. And of course, what was I gonna say? You know, oh yeah, and of course there could be more, but of course this is about Ryan. Focus on Ryan. Trying to choose between the two best friends, and of course and this is the second one. Sid and Lincoln together. Maybe there could be a little bit more, but it was nice to see. It was really great to see them interact a little bit in this episode.
I have to say this though, for Ronnie Ann, it was such a struggle. I mean, he even freaking talked to the universe and said, like, "Universe, give me a decision." Lincoln, Sid, I love freaking Cat Lincoln. I love Sid. I love Bird Sid. I love hot dog topping Sid, and so many Pizza Lincoln, for example. It's like they're saying, like, Ronnie Ann, you can't choose. They're your best friends. It's just like you can't pick these two or something like that. And I feel the struggle for Ronnie Ann in this case, and the fact that he was sacrificing herself to just give 2 tickets away to Sid and Lincoln, letting them have their time while Ronnie Ann tries her best to get her into was it Dairyland? I think it was just like a huge win for Ronnie Ann, because it's like, I can't choose between you two, so here, get my tickets. And she tries to find her way to get in, but of course you had to bring Carl along. And I think that was still a pretty clever move that, like, Ronnie Ann is still in Dairyland, but she still had to do a lot of like work where she had to like be a cow pretty much for the whole day.
Oh god.
Yeah. But I love the fact like when even if Lincoln and Sid were like hanging out together, it would be cool if they actually had some moments where they were all talking about it. Like they were all together, maybe have like a 5-minute moment or like a 2-minute moment or something like that. But I mean, I understand the episode was mostly focused on Ronnie Ann, but the fact that like they still were wondering where Ronnie Ann is, that just tells me like they really have some trust. They really have some trust in Ronnie Ann, and I really like that. Like, they are really good friends for Ronnie Ann, and they're going to support her no matter where she is. Like where she is, she gave us her tickets. We need to have Ronnie Ann here. So I know that all throughout the episode, they were all having fun. And of course, Ronnie Ann did get found out that he was in a cow. This led to this amazing ending that I thought was pretty cool. How did you guys react to the ending of Udder Mess? Vincent, we'll start off with you.
Okay. The ending with those 3 was just so adorable. Sid first said that telling Ronnie Ann that they both would be understanding of what Ronnie Ann was going through, because she respects her and Lincoln's friendship, and then Lincoln respects Ronnie Ann's friendship with Sid. And then Lincoln, of course, added that Rusty had a ticket as well. So if he had known, he would have asked him. But yeah, and then the 3 of them hugged it, and then Lincoln in the middle. That was so cute to see. Really, I will say probably should have been running in the middle, because she was in the middle of all this. But that hug was so adorable. I can't get enough of that. That's an image I will never get rid of. I'm gonna say that for a very, very long time.
I think that hug pretty much like was the topping of what Sidonican is all about.
Yeah.
How about you, Omid?
Okay, I'm going to say this right now, all right? The Sidonican hug easily dethroned the 12th Midnight hug as the best hug in Casagrandes. Yes, I said that. You heard me. And also, the ending itself was really sweet, honestly. I do love the fact that after Ronnie Ann fessed up and saying that she couldn't choose between her 2 best friends, how Sid and Lincoln were so humble, so loving, so caring, just so understanding of Ronnie Ann's dilemma, that they themselves say that they don't mind if she goes with the other. How, they all say, we'll be friends no matter what. How they all hug at the end, and like even the guard like has a change of heart too. Like when he reveals that he got into the carnival with the same intentions because the guard couldn't choose between his cousin and his gardener, so he was pretty much doing the same thing that Rania was doing. So as a result, the guard lets them have fun. Those three with Rusty in the chocolate milk shaker. And let me tell you, that chocolate milk shaker, that looks really fun to ride, honestly. Like it kind of shakes you up, Oh, also, another thing too, I would have loved to see. Honestly, I'm going to touch upon that later. I'll let Vincent.
So I was going to say like, as Lincoln said, the milkshake is shaking so hard, you're still shaking for weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I had to do this because we're all talking about Sedonikins. So hold on for just 1 second. But I do love this moment, though. Okay, so we gotta put it up. Look at that! I don't know how you guys react to this. Holy crap!
Oh my god! Yes. Look at that. Look at that. That's
my god,
right there.
That's beautiful, though. It is beautiful at the end. Okay, I love it. Like this is cute. Like. I understand Ranian's point that she cannot pick between her friends. The fact that, she did all of this sacrifice to, do all this to make sure that her best friends, don't get a fight or anything like that. They understand completely. Like Sid understands, like if she didn't ask, if Ranian didn't ask Sid, they understand. The same goes to Lincoln. He has a backup plan, by the way, by picking, Rusty to be his friend to go to, to go to Dairyland. So yeah, it's just the fact that like these three just understand each other. Ronnie Ann had a very hard struggle, and they're just still cool friends. So they're like, yeah, we understand your struggle. We understand if you decided this or decided that. No matter what, we're still gonna be friends. And of course, this led over to this hug, which I thought was just adorable.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. The fact that like they're squishing cheeks, they're like close together. It's just cute, like really cute. All right. I have nothing else to say, but I do want to say something since we're going to be talking about more about this episode. Rusty's just a fact for everybody. Rusty's the first person to be in the Casagrandes in Lincoln's friend group. Where's Clyde? Where's Stella? Where's Liam or Zach? Is Rusty that is first? I thought it would be Clyde. I thought Clyde would actually be in this.
How is it that Rusty became a Casagrandes character before Clyde did? Isn't that a little weird?
Yeah, I was just shocked about that. I'm like, yeah, Clyde didn't join in this episode. I thought, like, out of all the people, Clyde would be the person to actually go with Lincoln to Dairyland. Instead, it's Rusty, but I don't know.
you can let the Sid and Rusty meet, but you can't let Clyde and Sid meet first.
Exactly. Slide.
I really want an episode. I really want an episode where Stella and Ronnie Ann meet. Because they never met, if you know about that.
What a chance of that! But that would be be great to see.
If they ever can make an episode like that, I'm like put my money down for that.
I actually want to see that because I want to see how Ronnie Ann and Stella interact with each other. And no, this is not going to be another god awful love triangle cliche moment. Thank God. So keep that in mind. No love triangle.
I'm like feeling that.
My headcanon is that when Lincoln realizes the feelings of her Ronnie, and I feel like Stella will be the girl that Lincoln would talk to her, and she would give him advice and stuff like that.
Oh my god, that'd be really cool. Like I understand, like Stella's like a bro to Lincoln, so I would not be surprised if like Ronnie and Lincoln go out together. But of course, Lincoln asks Stella for some girl advice, which would be pretty cool. Oh my god. What other things you want to bring up in this episode?
Well, I think I want to say this. As our friend Sunny pointed out, this episode did have some connections to the horoscope. Because first they had the Ryan calling Lincoln, and then. Lincoln and Ryan just chatting with each other in the beginning of the episode, and of course I want to say, Lincoln asked Ryan first, and she said yes. We're not taking sides on this. Just pointing that out. Lincoln asked Ryan first, and she said yes. Just want to point that out. And then, but then of course, Sid had to come in, and that's that little hug was also kind of cute. But yeah, some other connections with to the horoscope. Ryan talking to Rosa and mentioning the universe. That's a connections that there, and what else? Oh yeah, and then the pizza, Lincoln. It makes you think about when Ryan and Lincoln were having pizza at that restaurant over in the horoscope, and then the cat, it's like when Ryan and Lincoln were watching that cat video. So of course the Sedai again what was said there.
Okay.
Also one more thing, that the lobby moment in the beginning, it's not the best thing that I would add, because like poor Lori, like that
Oh, God.
photo.
Oh my God!
A
Don't
selfie
remind me of that moment, because
My
it just made me.
baby's
She looks so horrified. She's
And-
like, it's horrible.
and
And I never expected I never expected Lori to just cry her eyes off. I'm like, oh my goodness, Lori, I feel your pain, but
and Bobby does it. It's just like, oh, she's got my ears, and then starts.
I know. That's
not
what
the-
happened. That's what happened when you took the photo, when you had like a pineapple and a dog and a parrot and pretty much everything that was around you.
not the way I would introduce that the plot that episode, but it's nice to see Lori make an appearance in that episode at least. But
Yeah, to say the least, that I mean, like Lori and Bobby are still dating, and the fact that they're putting that like in little implications in the Casagrandes kind of tells you like they're still in a relationship, they're still hanging out, they're still talking, they're doing this and that. And it's just amazing just to have a moment like this where Lori and Bobby just just do a video chat and had a baby that looked so terrible.
okay,
Although I do want to bring this up in the in that video call too. Lincoln being so happy that Ronnie Ann won tickets, and then of course Ronnie Ann asked Lincoln out first. So just the heads up there.
Yep.
Ronnie Kin moments, guys.
Yep.
All right.
Sid has her BFF radar, though. Sid has her BFF radar, so
That's true.
All right.
That's true.
she already knows
Alright,
what's
so-
up.
All right. How about you, Omid? Anything else you want to bring in this episode?
Yes. I want to mention first thing first. Here's a little fun fact for all you cartoon community people out there, all you animation fans. The guard that in Udder Mess is voiced by Eric Bauza. In other words,
Ooh.
So you could say that Bugs Bunny was in an Udder Mess. You could say that Bugs Bunny was in this episode.
Nice.
But he also voiced Bruno. He also voices Bruno. Yeah.
Right. He does
yeah,
too. Well,
That's true.
he's been doing a lot of voice acting, but then again, he's more important in the Looney Tunes cartoons right now. And
True
props
that.
out to him. He's busy.
And second off, another thing I want to point out too is that I feel that there could have been an extra scene with Lincoln, Ronnie Ann, Sid, and Rusty together, and then like imagine this: like after the episode, Rusty tries to hit on Sid, and then like he tries to hook up with Sid, but then Sid is like, "I'm sorry, not interested in you. I already have a man. His name is Yud Kwan." And then,
Oh my God.
and then Rusty is like, Yud Kwan and 12 Midnight is overrated anyways. And then Sid is like, what was that?
Well, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, Sid will openly smack Rusty for smack talking about her husbando.
So I would have to say, now let's wrap this up here. What would you rate this episode? I would imagine high ratings, everybody. So let's start with Omid here.
I'm going to say a 9 out of 10. It was a really sweet Sid Donikin episode. It's nice to once again see the beautiful chemistry between the trio. I feel that there could have been more Sidonican moments to really complete the episode, but as it is, I really liked Ronnie Yan in this episode. I felt that her dilemma was understandable. The conflict she goes through in order to choose between her two best friends, like it's a perfectly relatable and understandable situation. And like I said, Ronnie Yan does have the best intentions in heart in this episode, as opposed to the next episode we're going to be talking about in a few minutes.
Oh boy. We're not there yet, so shush. Vincent, how would you rate this episode?
Oh man, for me, I thought this episode was, or at least for my only two words can describe this episode for me, at least, absolute perfection. You know, they really knocked this episode out of the park. I could say this episode is for me is my most favorite episode of season 2. I get this a 10 or even beyond. It doesn't top the horoscope. I don't think, because the horoscope did this really good accomplishments in its own ways. So there's no contest about both those episodes. But yeah, Udder Mess, I absolutely loved how how they executed it and how it ended up. I absolutely loved it.
Okay. I have to say it was absolute perfection. Just the fact that Ronnie Yan had it was pretty much Ronnie Yan's episode. Yes, we have Sidonican moments here, but it is Ronnie Yan's episode where Ronnie had to decide between those two, and I can understand the struggle that Ronnie Yan had to get through to find a person that she wants to go with, because you only had 2 tickets. And the fact that she confessed and that they understood just tells me how good of a friendship is between these 3. And I'm just so happy just that gets portrayed in this episode. And yeah, there are some little hiccups. I mean, Carl was there, and I thought that was pretty cool. He was really funny in the episode. He's turned out to be the butt of the joke now. So I would say, yeah, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's not there to the perfection yet. And 9 out of 5, 9.5 out of 10. I have to say this though, horoscope beats this episode. I love the horoscope more. That was my 10 out of 10 episode, to be honest. Look, it was an emotional roller coaster. Okay.
Yeah, honestly, I do prefer horoscope myself.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move over to the next episode that also aired during that block. Although it's kind of unfortunate that it's this episode. The episode is called Teacher's Friends. And let's actually start the description here. Ronnie Yan finds out her father is dating her teacher. That was pretty much the description. But just throughout this whole episode, it just makes you feel like, what is Ronnie Yan doing? This is back to the old Ronnie Yan that people like back in the second season Loud House version of Ronnie Yan. This is not the same Ronnie Yan that we had to see from the Casagrandes that we have seen so far. But you know what? I am not going to bash on this a lot. Omid has a lot of words to talk about this. So let's actually start off with him. What was your reaction with Ronnie Yan in this episode?
Ronnie Yan, why? Just why? Honestly, you're supposed to be better than this. You have shown better than this. But whoo boy. This episode, let me tell you, you done dirty this time, young lady. You've done dirty. Honestly, I am not exaggerating when I say that this is the worst Casagrande episode I've ever seen. The worst. Not just season 2, but in general. This is the worst. And it mainly has to do with the fact that Ronnie Yan was too selfish in this episode. Now, when I first heard that Ronnie Yan was trying to break up her dad and her teacher, I thought, okay, I do see where they are going with this. And you know what? This does have the potential to work. Maybe we finally get to hear the backstory of Maria and Arturo's divorce. Maybe we get to see Maria play a huge role in this episode one way or another. Maybe the episode could give Ronnie Yan proper motivation for wanting to break up her dad and Miss G. Maybe the episode could portray Ronnie Ann in a positive light, and the episode could establish that while her actions might have been questionable, she did do it out of good intentions because she didn't want to see Arturo's heart being broken by another woman again. Nope. Nada. None of it. Zilch. None of the above happens. At all. It's just, she wants to break up Arturo and Miss G because, okay, get this, because her social life is at stake. Really? Really, Ronnie Ann? Really? So, all this sabotaging, all of this planning was all for your sake alone. What the flip? And let me tell you, this is not the first time that I have uttered these three words altogether in this podcast series. But let me tell you, I am just so outraged. Never since Blinded by Science have I been this outraged at an episode's thoroughly terrible writing. You have the potential to make this work, and you just threw it all away. Walked out the window and into the garbage bin. First off, Ronnie Ann, let me ask you something. How would you know firsthand if your reputation would really be damaged by the simple fact that your father and your teacher are in love with each other? It's all sabotaging based off of speculation. Oh my God, wow. It's Saved by the Spell all over again. Second, this is Ronnie Ann at her worst. Not only does she go all about it, all obnoxious and all aggressive when trying to succeed the breakup, but then when she thought that she actually did sabotage it, it turns out that not only were Ronnie Ann and Sid celebrating about it, they were like going on dancing happily all about it, despite the fact that it could potentially have caused Arturo and Miss G severe depression. But also, we learned later on that Arturo and Miss G didn't break up because of Ronnie Ann. No. It's all because they thought they just weren't meant to be. It was all based on their reasons. It had nothing to do with Ronnie Ann at all. So it turns out that Ronnie Ann learned nothing. She learned nothing. Nothing was learned in this episode. There was no moral here. No proper motivation for Ronnie Ann to break up her dad and her teacher. There could have been proper motivation. Like I said, you could have had the divorce backstory. You could have had Maria. You had Maria at the end, but she only appeared for 1 minute.
And also,
they goes back to making the same mistakes at the end when she tried to break up Maria to a father.
This bashing on an episode.
Oh my God! Yes. What? We thought we would go better.
Wow.
I just lose my mind right now. Honestly, I want to give it to someone else because honestly, I feel like I'm just gonna lose my head. I'm gonna lose my brain cells even more talking about this episode. So honestly, I'm gonna give this to the mic to someone else. Vincent, Nate, you have the floor. Go.
Let's just put the fact here that I think it took like around 5 or 6 minutes for me to actually rant about this episode. The longest that he ever did of a rant when it comes to a bad Loud House or Casagrandes episode. So absolutely,
even more so the Blinded by Science, and that's saying something.
No, yeah, that's interesting too. I thought you hated Blinded by Science, and apparently you hate this more. So that's surprising.
Honestly, I'll touch upon that later.
I don't know. It was just really entertaining to me just seeing that. Anyways, Vincent, do you want to bash off like this, or what else can you say about this episode?
Oh man, this only two words can describe this episode. It's either wasted potential or missed opportunity. Actually, those words may be on the same level because, man, when Ryan, we think that Ryan will be upset at that because Arturo was seeing someone else. And we could have explored why Maria and Arturo were divorced. We could have explored the past relationship, but it just kind of excluding. They're just gonna scrap the exploration of why they divorce. If you, I was gonna say it feels it feels like this opportunity like with the grandparent trap, but yeah. Anyway, so Ryan, so when Ryan learns that Arturo is dating someone else, she's okay with that. Like, okay, uh, so that's that. And then she finds out that he's dating Mrs. Galliano, and then she's doesn't want them to be dating because this would impact her social life. Um, another thing. She's dating that at first she thought she would get some sort of special treatment for the teacher because she said they're dating her dad, and guess what? She gets a C. Because in Operation Dad, she was a really great student. Why would she? And then in this episode, she just thinks she gets that special treatment. The teacher would just let her pass, but no, she still she ends up getting a C. Come on, Ronnie, you're better than that. and also, what else? And then so, Ryan and Sid. Well, Ryan. Well, no one at the moment knew that before Abby. So, not Abby. Before Becky found out that Mrs. Miss Galliano was dating Arturo. Ryan felt like she would only tell Sid that she would only let Sid know that Arturo was dating Mrs. Galliano, but not Nikki, Casey, or Smeo. Like they're part of her friend group. I'm sure they would understand, but not to include them. I'm honestly a little confused about that. And then when they think that they sabotage to break them up, they celebrate it happily. Man, that's just so cold. And then they hear Arturo and Mrs. Galliano crying, and then she want apologize, but then they reveal that their sabotage wasn't the reason that they broke up. They said to each other they were that they were a good. They thought they were a good match for each other. They were cool with that, and they were crying because Arturo, his soccer team lost, and this guy had some makeup that make her eyes so watery, and she has so all that was for nothing, nothing, and she got off completely scot free, getting what she wanted. This episode felt like that Bendy episode from Foster. So did you guys ever watch that? Like she got completely scot free. I mean, come on, this episode. The overall this episode had me question ask me question some stuff. I mean, come on. You could do better. Come on, Ryan's better than that. What were you done to her in this episode? Ryan, why? And
I wouldn't expect Ryan to be a sabotager of a parent's relationship. I understand. I thought this was going to be more of like, okay, coming into Teacher's Friend, I was thinking that, Arturo's dating Mrs. Galliano. That means Ronnie Ann needs to do something where she wants to have Arturo and Maria back or something like that. I don't know. So she tried to sabotage like that, but unfortunately, it's more like Ronnie Ann just continuing to. I don't know. This just makes Ronnie Ann look foolish to say, just because she just does all of this to break up Arturo and Mrs. Galliano. There's just so much that involvement in that, and it's just more like Ronnie Ann, just chill. I believe you're going to be fine with your dad and Miss Galliano becoming like a couple to say. It shouldn't be an issue, but apparently for Ronnie Ann, with her social status at stake, it makes sense for her to just continue to sabotage it. I don't understand that part. The other thing too is Sid. I know we have some Sedonican vibes, but then I think it's a bad Sedonican vibe here, knowing that Sid is actually backing with Ronnie Ann, and they're both, trying to sabotage Arturo and Mrs. Galliano in this episode. I'm like, okay, this is not good. In the end, too, it was like, yeah, okay, you celebrate that you broke up. I don't feel like you really should celebrate about that, knowing that they were crying too, and then they apologized. And I also talked about this in one of our podcasts, I think Sunny's podcast. This was just pretty much a ride or one-off or something, where versus Galliano was crying because of makeup, or Arturo cried because of his soccer team losing. That takes no. I'm like, really? Come on! It's just I don't think this is excuses to cry. Maybe with your eyes watering makes sense, but still, it was not good. And then in the end, you're right, where Maria was about to talk to a janitor or some other teacher,
robotics teacher.
Her robotics teacher, and apparently Ronnie Ann didn't want that to happen too. And I'm like, yeah, you're not learning anything here, Ronnie Ann. You're just pretty much trying to make your parents single or something, and that doesn't look good on you. Oh, it was an episode where Ronnie Ann just looks bad, and it just not good to say. I might want to just go straight forward to this. I'm not going to ask your guys' rating because I'm pretty sure you guys are going to get a disappointing rating on this anyway.
This episode feels like it's on the same level as such like over the Loud House, I think.
That's already comparing it to a certain level. If you compare it to No Such Luck now,
I'd say No Such Luck is better than this, honestly. But honestly, for me, it's
they're two different episodes. We can't really debate on both of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
For me, it's between Blinded by Science and this. I honestly don't know which is worse.
Oh my goodness. We could talk about this a lot. I would say, don't tell me everybody put a 1 out of 10 on this, right? I was gonna say 3 out of 10 for me. I don't know about you guys.
All I can say is, go on,
all right. I'm gonna say this. It's a 2 out of 10. I have not been this outraged in a Loud Casa episode since Blinded by Science. I can't believe it was this horrible. I was actually trying to give it the benefit of the doubt when I first saw it, but then the more and more I saw it, the more and more I actually hated it. And let me tell you, I'm going to say this right now. What is it with Lincoln's best friends acting so selfish and horrid recently? I mean, seriously, between Clyde and Flying Solo and Ronnie Ann in this episode, I'm starting to think that the reason Lincoln has been so pure and at his best in season 5 is because all of his selfishness that he had in the previous 4 seasons somehow was borrowed from both Clyde and Ronnie Ann. It's a little too convenient also when you really do think about how these 2 episodes aired less than a week away from each other.
Flying Solo was his own different story as well. I'm not going to say much about it. We already did an episode about it. I don't know about you, Vincent. What did you rate it? 1 out of 10? 2 out of 10?
Between those two, I just say it's a big fat.
That's a good reaction to it. Okay, enough talk about this. Let's move on to the next 4 episodes. So let's actually start off on the Wednesday episode with I Breakfast Bot. So let's start the synopsis here. Ronnie Ann and her cousins hatch a plan to have Sid's breakfast robot do all the chores. I'm going to start off with you, Omid, here. How do you explain how the Casagrandes siblings were when it comes to chores and having Breakfast Bot do all of them?
I got to say that the Casagrandes relying on Breakfast Bot to do the chores for them, it's actually natural that, because they're kids and they can be lazy, they don't want to do their chores, they want to watch their shows instead. So it does make sense that they would have Sid try to create Breakfast Bot to do all the chores for them. And what I like about this episode too is that it presents sort of a social commentary about how humans, especially kids, rely so much on technology and bots to do all of their bidding, all their chores for them. It's especially relevant nowadays when you really do think about it.
It's true. How about you, Vincent? How did you feel with the Casagrande siblings just like letting Breakfast Bot do all the chores?
it's not uncommon that kids feel lazy and they don't want to do the chores. So, then convincing Sid to have breakfast pasta do all those chores. And I gotta say that those guys doing those puppy dog guys on set something that I never would have expected them to do. But anyway, this episode kind of explores the interaction between robots and humanity, and the robots uprising. I don't. Should we go into further in depth about this episode?
We'll get more into depth in that. I do have to say though, I mean, I understand the whole concept of kids just having robots or having like technology pretty much take over their chores or their daily lives, to say the least. I think that was a huge lesson that came into this, especially how Breakfast Bot just started to tried to destroy them, and even had like all of the other robots or other mechanisms come in and try to destroy them. I'm like, okay, but they're just little kids, guys. They're lazy. We understand. Kids don't want to do chores.
They don't know any better. We're just kids.
Yeah, they're just kids. I can't. Now we've seen this trope before. I've seen a lot of these happen before, where a robot comes into like a household and starts breaking stuff or starts ruining the trend that happens in the house. I would have to say I would compare this to like Big City Greens, for example. They had an episode called iFarmBot, and they pretty much had a farm robot do all the farm work and had Bill Green pretty much be lazy. So it's kind of like that. But you understand the whole concept of like a robot just trying to take over your daily life, to say.
Yeah, I remember that episode. I really like that one. Then again, I'm a Big City Greens fan too, so of course I would like it.
So I'm just wondering, was this a surprise to you that this episode came out like this? We'll start off with Vincent in this one.
This episode, it's a pretty cool, interesting. It was good to explore the general idea of a robot uprising. Because I think that a lot of other shows and media have had that concept. I think even Transformers had some of that with like a computer taking over a lot of machinery, but that's a different story. And a lot some cute Sedani vibes in it.
Yes, more Sedani vibe. Like, I swear to God, like this whole week, I think we had a lot of Sedani vibes.
Yeah,
good and bad. So
and also the ending with like Breaker Spotter. Dennis, I think is what he referred to himself as. Given that thumbs up, that was a reference to Terminator 2.
Yeah. That's right. It was like a reference to the Terminator, the hand going down and all.
Yeah.
How about you, Ami? Did you were surprised about a concept like this in an episode for the Casagrandes?
I kind of was, but then again, I sort of wasn't. And it was right when Sid first invented Breakfast Bot, like several episodes ago. Like, I always wondered what they're going to do with Breakfast Bot and see the direction they're going to take with this character. And with a character like Breakfast Bot, who was created specifically to serve humans, well, especially breakfast, it sort of made me wonder, sort of made me think, like I said, how they're going to do Breakfast Bot, aka Dennis. And I think that an episode like this is really where you can get some real in-depth into Breakfast Bot. It can really give him some character, give him some more motivation for himself. And I really do like that not only does this episode really enhance the social commentary I was talking about, but it also gives Breakfast Bot, aka Dennis, motivation, depth, and development more than he ever has before. Because since Sid improved, updated Breakfast Bot to make him awesome.0, like he becomes so awesome. He becomes so functioning up to a point where he starts to question himself. He starts to question his methods. He starts to question, whether it's actually worth serving the humans who don't do diddly squat to help you. And thus it leads to Breakfast Bot coming to terms like, hey, I have feelings too. That's not fair. I'm gonna create a revolution, start my own revolution, and show them, who's boss. And so that's when Breakfast Spot and the robots take over the house and kidnap Sid.
Yeah. I would have to put out that Sid moment too, where like Sid gets kidnapped and then Ronnie Ann and Sid like lose their hands and stuff. I'll never forget you. That kind of thing.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Ronnie Ann has her own princess to save in this episode.
Oh, Dan, someone stressed.
Oh, so Donnie Kid vibes again.
Yep.
So pretty much you could call this Super Casagrande cousins, and coming to say Princess Sid from Dennis. And then you got Adelaide being like, sorry, but my sister is in the wrong room.
Oh my God, she's a toad. Okay, so I'll have to say, because
my sister is in another room. I mean, another room.
I have to say this though. We know that Breakfast Spot could be dead, but we saw a hand come out of that soup. Do you think he's dead?
Sequel.
It's a sequel. Oh no!
Yes.
Yes. We thought we see the end of Breakfast Spot, but maybe not.
Dennis will come back. You just watch.
I would not be surprised if we get to see Breakfast Spot 2 or something. Part 2. All right. So let's. What else do you guys want to bring up in this episode?
No, I just want to bring up one thing. I noticed a sort of trend. I noticed some sort of coincidence that with Breakfast Spot and Bad Cluck, I noticed that we have two Casagrande villains, which are Dennis and the chicken, the ghost chicken. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed is that they're not villains just for the sake of it. They are actually villains of the Casagrandes' own making. They're actually monsters of the Casagrandes' own making, the ones like they created. When you really do think about it, because if Sergio had not killed the chicken, if he had not made the chicken's life miserable as he did, then the ghost chicken would not have become the villain in Bad Cluck. And also, with regards to this too, have the humans actually gone off their lazy asses and actually done their chores instead of making Dennis do the work for them, treating him as their slave, then Dennis would not have become a villain either. So what I like about this is that they are villains under circumstance. Like these two antagonists, they're pretty much, it sort of makes them more interesting when you really do think about it, because they're like the two main Casagrandes villains. And so, like I said before, I like how this show gives these two proper motivation for wanting to get back at the Casagrandes, or more specifically, the specific members of the Casagrandes.
Right. I got nothing else to say unless Vincent has something else to talk about this episode. But
actually, no, I don't got much to say. Although,
okay.
Actually, I almost say.
Okay, one thing. All right.
I gotta say, Rosa being so tough on Sergio, man.
That's true, actually.
Man.
Okay.
Never forget. I said never forget.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So, how would you guys rate this episode? Omid, we'll start off with you.
I'm also going to rate this I'm going to say 8.5 out of 10 for this also. It was a really fun episode. The Casagrandes, they were being a bit too lazy, even by kid standards. But however, all the stuff with Dennis and Breakfast Spot, I feel they're the best parts of this episode, honestly, because like I said, he definitely works very effectively as a villain. And especially when it's actually the Casagrandes' faults themselves that Dennis became this way.
True. How about you, Vincent?
I'd say I give this episode an 8 out of 10. Of course, being lazy and all. Not my favorite episode, but it was a pretty fun concept to explore.
Yeah, exactly. I like how they handled the humans and robots plot line. I feel that like in terms of men versus the machines, I feel that they handled the man versus machines plot very well in this episode, because this episode gives both sides to the story. You understand, you kind of sympathize with both sides. You sympathize with the humans because, well, they think of them robots as, bots. They're technology. They're robots. Of course, they're not the same level as humans. But then on the other hand, you see Dennis, and you just feel sorry for the guy because he's slaving away the Casagrandes and Sid, and like he feels underappreciated, and I felt for Dennis.
Yeah. I have to say though, I mean, it's a good, interesting concept that they brought up when they put up with the robots and the humans. My thing is that I've seen this concept before. I think this got portrayed well also in the Casagrandes. I mean, the Big City Greens did it as well, but we also see this kind of concept throughout much of shows recently. And I must say, yeah, just to teach you a lesson about not being lazy, not being not having a robot pretty much go over and just take care of your life or something. But to say the least, it was pretty good. I have to give this like a 8 out of 10 as well. Not bad, coming from Casagrandes fan, but not the best episode, but it's still pretty tolerable that I could watch whatever. All right, let's move over to our next episode called Dynamic Do-Over. The synopsis of this episode is: when Carl's dreams are crushed after meeting El Falcone, Bobby decides to take the role himself. So I just want to ask you guys, have you had the situation where, like Carl, where your dreams were crushed from an encounter with a hero? Let's start off with you, Vincent.
I have not had that experience, but I have seen I've seen a couple of 4 points of media that cover this. For instance, I even referenced that they said to The Incredibles, as Buddy, aka Syndrome, thought of Mr. Incredible as a hero, but he keeps turning her down, and then his dreams are crushed, and that's the main villain.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep. Okay, how about you, Abid?
I would say sort of, but not really in the same way that Carl has. Now, we are all familiar with the broken pedestal trope. The one where a character looks up to a heroic figure, but it turns out that a certain hero isn't quite as heroic as that character thought. And, we have seen this kind of trope done in media as well. We've seen it in Up. We've seen it in Coco. We've seen it in Promare. And of course, we've seen it especially in real life. Yes, in real life, and in recent times especially, when certain people we know and we looked up to have turned out to be less than heroic. And I mean way less than heroic. And of course, we have all felt that back in 2017, if you all remember. So with this, I actually wanted to see how they will handle that kind of situation. And it turns out that they actually have their own twist on it. So rather than a superhero, Carl actually finds out that El Falcone is just an actor playing as a superhero, which of course breaks Carl's heart. And let me tell you, it made me feel so sorry for him that his heart was broken. Like, honestly, I would imagine any kid who was in this situation would feel just as betrayed.
So I've seen this kind of thing before, and I would have to look all the way back to like the 90s. I think Omid knows this because he also watched this show. Hey Arnold, there was this episode where Eugene was looking up to a figure or something, and then the figure turned out to be like a really bad person. So that's what Carl pretty much had. And of course, this turned out for Eugene to be all acting bad. But if this is for Carl in this one, it's just more like him being disappointed, like throwing away all of the El Falcone stuff. Just that kind of disappointment. And I understand, like, if your hero gets if your like role model turns out to be so like nice and like a TV screen, while in real life when you look at them they turn out to be just a jerk or something. I understand the whole heartbreak part there, and it portrays perfectly with Carl, because it just tells you that Carl was just so disappointed that he throws away all this El Falcone stuff. And like the whole situation for Carl, it's like, okay, the thing that you love is pretty much the thing that you hate. and the family wants to make sure that it doesn't happen like that. So I love the fact that like even with Carl being so disappointed, the family came in to step in and try to make Carl happy, which leads me to my next question here, especially for Bobby when he actually took over the role as El Falcone. How did you like the role that Bobby did in the episode when he wanted to lift up Carl's spirits, especially what happened when he was disappointed with El Falcone? How about you, Vincent? How did you feel about Bobby being the next, like the big brother for Carl in this one?
I thought that Bobby's intentions in this episode was pure at heart. He wanted to Carl to believe in Al Falcone again. It was so really really nice to see. Although until it gets to the end, Carl realized that Bobby had been lying to him, and then he just wanted to. So telling him he just wanted him to never stop believing, but I feel like Carl could appreciate what Bobby do a little bit more, but this relationship between those two is quite strong, I gotta say. I think it was surpassed more that they had it in Sink or Swim, honestly. But yeah, this relationship quite strong, I think.
How about you, Abid? How did you like the fact of Bobby being the bigger brother here for Carl?
Oh my God, Bobby. I'm going to say this right now. This is Bobby at his purest. This is Bobby at his sweetest. This is Bobby at his best. Best Bobby right here. Like, I just loved how Bobby was always there for Carl through thick and thin in this episode. Back like from the moment that he took Carl to the comic store to meet El Falcone, Carl's hero that he has wished to meet like all his life, to dressing up as El Falcone after the actor who played as El Falcone was such a jerk to him. And like even after Carl finds out that Bobby was pretending to be El Falcone all along, he does understand. He does sympathize with Carl. He understands how Carl feels about this, and he does try to explain himself, saying that he was trying to make Carl believe. And you know what? I completely believe that. I do completely believe that Bobby was really doing this solely for Carl's sake and solely to make Carl happy again. Because especially when we see a kid's dream getting crushed at such a young age, like, oh my God, like honestly, that's just so heartbreaking to see. And even though it's not the first time we see it in the Nick episode, like Nate just pointed out Eugene Goes Bad, like honestly, this is still like very heartbreaking to see. And Bobby knows this too. So what he does, like he goes out of his way to get Carl to believe in El Falcone again, because he knows that every kid needs a hero in their life. So Bobby gets his entire family to play as the villains of El Falcone, and gets Hector to play as Commissioner El Gordo. By the way, nice Batman Easter egg, by the way. In order to sort of, pretend to be El Falcone and, El Falcone's baddies, just to make Carl believe again, just to make Carl happy, to restore his childhood. So honestly, for me, like this not only is the best episode of the entire bunch of episodes we'll be talking about. Like honestly, out of the entire bunch of episodes that we'll be talking about tonight, honestly, Dynamic Do-Over is definitely my favorite one of the bunch. And in terms of Casagrandes episodes, this is definitely one of my top 3.
That's really saying something there. I have to say this. I mean, I've seen this before where Bobby was the bigger brother in Sink or Swim, like what Vincent pointed out. And it shows again here in this episode, but I feel like it's much more valuable in this one, just because you get to see a disappointed younger sibling that Bobby had to deal with. And just the fact that Bobby had to dress up as El Falcone and have the whole family get involved with it. I just feel like it was just amazing. I also did like the end too, where like Bobby had to actually face off a real life robber, and the fact at the end too, where like El Falcone finally realizes like, oh, I have to be this hero for this role model, and it's just like the lesson at the end where like El Falcone understands the aspect of it, and it's all thanks to how Bobby pretty much portrayed El Falcone, and the fact that like Carl's looking up to El Falcone as like a huge hero and stuff like that. I gotta say, like, Bobby in this episode was absolutely amazing. Just to be a role model, just to be an inspiration for like other people that were pretty much down. So El Falcone got his spirit back because of Bobby being El Falcone and just lifting up Carl's spirit. So I thought that was just really awesome, to say the least.
Bobby's the real hero of this episode.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. And you never see Bobby. You never see Bobby in like episodes just like this. You always see Bobby kind of be silly and things like that. But him in this episode, I must say, he did a pretty good job here.
Yeah, all most definitely. Like I said, this is Bobby at his best because he goes all out. He goes out of his way to make his little cousin happy, to make his little cousin believe in a certain heroic figure. And honestly, it just touched my heart on what a great big cousin he really is. Like, you can really tell that in this episode, like, this episode is definitely the highlight of Bobby, and it's pretty much the epitome of Bob. It's pretty much the prime example of Bobby always being their first family.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I just want to bring up, what do you guys want to talk about after, like, anything else you want to talk about in this episode?
Yes. Honestly, for me, like this episode, like this works so amazingly well as both from a family heartwarming aspect and from a superhero action aspect. With the family heartwarming aspect, like I said before, just the fact that Bobby goes out of his way for Carl through thick and thin from beginning to end, and even going to a point of dressing as Carl's hero in order to restore faith in the superhero that Carl once looked up to restore his, childhood, to pretty much restore his belief in superheroes. Like, honestly, it really touched my heart that way. And pretty much El Falcone said it best to Bobby at the end, where he's like, I'm not the hero, you are. That really does go to show that, being a superhero is actually, you could be a superhero in more ways than one. It's not just about, saving lives and catching bad guys and stuff, but, it's also to make kids happy, to make people happy, to make people have faith, in, justice figure, to make people believe in a certain hero in a sense. So I really like that they touched upon what it means to be a hero. And speaking of heroes, it will also works just as well from a superhero action-y aspect as well, because you got all these homages, all these references and Easter eggs to the early Batman comics and early Spider-Man comics, like the late 30s and 40s and all that stuff. And especially with the color scheme that, the color scheme that they use for all the supposed action-y scenes with Bobby's El Falcone versus the rest of the family as the bad guys. The color scheme, the red and yellow color scheme, I really like that they nailed it so perfectly because, like I said, it's a homage to all the old Marvel and DC comics. So it pays excellent tribute to those works. And let's not forget Commissioner El Gordo as, nice little callback to Commissioner Gordon from the Batman mythos.
Yep.
And plus you got like this, you got this green reptile villain who's actually a callback to Lizard from the Spider-Man mythos. So I really like that as well. So
nice.
So honestly, I feel that like a nice blend. It's a perfect blend of the the family heartwarming aspect and the superhero action aspect. I love that it's a mesh. It's the best of both worlds. Like they combine together to make such a near perfect, no, perfect episode.
Okay, nice way to talk about that. I got not much to say unless Vincent has something to say about this episode.
What I want to say, of course, the ending was like, Bobby who says, "Time to fly," and then Patrick Crumb away. Then crushed by that Duke One sign.
Oh my god, yeah.
Time to cry.
Time to cry.
that was funny.
I mean, like you gotta have the comedy aspect of Bobby in this episode too, and you have it here. I mean, also the fact that he used the grappling hook for him to fly, just like El Falcon trying to get the robber.
That's actually pretty cool and funny because he's just panicking.
Yep, he's just pretty much panicking throughout that. I thought it was just really funny. Okay. If you were to rate this episode, how would you rate it?
I think I give this a 10 out of 10. Actually, I don't really have any problems with it.
Nice, really nice. How about you, Abid?
I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. Like I said, it is such a perfect gem of an episode because of all the reasons that I mentioned of dynamic do-over working so incredibly well as all the family heartwarming aspects of this episode and all the superhero action aspects of this episode, and work perfectly well, and they blend just so beautifully together. And I especially adore this episode as someone who is a huge fan of superhero media. Like, I love My Hero Academia. I love the Marvel films. I love, some of the DC shows, like, Batman animated series. I love the Batman Arkham video games. I love the Dark Knight trilogy. Like, I love a lot of superhero media stuff in general. So honestly, like, this touches me as both a Casagrande fan and as a superhero fan. Like, it just touched me in all the right ways. Honestly, I'm sort of debating on whether this or Guilt Trip is my favorite season 2 episode. Like, I can't choose between the two. However, in terms of Casagrande episodes overall, this episode, like I said, ranks among my top 3 absolute favorites, right alongside Croaked and Guilt Trip.
I have to say, though, this was absolutely perfect with this Bobby and Carl episode. I just feel like every Bobby and Carl episode is turning out to be really good. So when the next one comes out, I would imagine it being like a stellar episode too. I would have to say, I got to give this a 9.5 out of 10, just like an Udder Mess. I do love the lesson in this episode. I do love how everything is portrayed. I would say, I don't know how to make it like a perfect episode, but it just feels like it is almost perfect. Just as the level as Horoscope. I mean, just the lesson in this episode, just how the family cooperates with Carl. I have to say, this was definitely really heartwarming. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10 in my books. All right. We have 2 more episodes to get through, so let's go ahead and get to it. First up is Home Improvement. This is a Laird episode. We never expect Laird to actually have an episode like this, but here's the synopsis. Laird is nervous to host a movie night at his house, so Ronnie Ann helps him pretend Arturo's pad is his own. So are you surprised we're getting a Laird episode before another character's episode? Vincent, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is I never would have expected of all the side characters in this episode. Never would have expected that we get a Laird episode before, like, a Sid episode.
Right? I'm kind of shocked about that too. Sid needs more recognition, but we're not giving her even an episode. Like, we have Laird out of the old people. Laird is just a new person that just came into the squad, and he has an episode. I'm like, what about Nikki? What about Casey and Samir? Those guys can also have their own episodes as well, but we're having Laird come in first. I guess if you're the last person to come in the group, you have to get a really focused episode or something. I guess that's how the formula works in the Casagrandes.
Yes, so.
How about you, Abid? How are you surprised with having a Laird episode before everybody else?
Okay, now time for me to talk about Home Improvement. And no, I am not talking about the 90s sitcom, okay? Don't think I'm talking about the 90s sitcom Home Improvement. I'm talking about the Casagrande episode of Home Improvement, okay? So I'm just laying it all out there, all right? Now, in terms of Laird, honestly, I have to say, was anyone really expecting Laird to have his own episode before Sid? Did anyone really see this coming? Was anyone actually not surprised by this? No? Okay, let's move on. Now, as for Laird himself, honestly, I find him to be a pretty meh character in a sense. Like, he's just one of those that's just there, you know? He's just there just to be the butt monkey, and that's pretty much it, you know? Now, monkey characters do actually work, okay? For example, you got Eugene from Hey Arnold. You know, coincidentally, Nate, you did mention Eugene.
Yes,
so,
I did.
so why Eugene works is that why Eugene works as a butt monkey is because, you know, some of the slapstick, some of the pain, how do I put it? Some of the accidents that he goes through, like, not only are they comedic, they're actually funny. With him always going, I'm okay, all this stuff. But also, there's actually more to his character than that. Like, Eugene has more layers, you know? Like, he's optimistic, he's friendly, he has a breaking point, he knows when he's been betrayed, you know? Like, there's just so much more to Eugene's character than just being the butt of the joke. And that's why he works so effectively as a character. With Laird, however, like, for the most part, he's just there just to be the background character, just to be Ronnie Ann's secondary friend, and also just to be the butt of the joke. And honestly, he doesn't serve much of a purpose than that, therefore making him such a one-note character.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Laird actually does get an episode, because the thing is that he doesn't actually appear with the squad sometimes. You get to see Ronnie Ann with Sid, Nikki, Samir, and Casey. And it makes sense because we saw them in City Slickers, and we also saw Sid and a friend in. And it makes sense to have those guys pretty much, be a squad like that. Laird just came in randomly, and it was just surprising to see, like, out of all the people that we would like to have more focus on, it would be Laird. Why not Nikki? Why not Samir or Casey? Because I mean, Samir, yes. Casey, yes, because we did actually have an episode with him in Meal Ticket, but Laird, out of all people, I thought he's just more of a person who just, like, is in the background, just hanging out with Ronnie Anna sometimes. That's who I thought Laird is. But knowing that he's now part of the squad and having his own episode, I guess we're going that route. But
yeah, honestly, and another thing too is that I think another purpose that I think Laird serves to the story, that Laird serves in the Casagrandes, is just to be the sixth member, just because Lincoln got his sixth member, Stella. But even then,
Stella's better.
Stella's way better. It's no contest at all. Stella is much better than Laird.
Then again, Stella had more focus because pretty much she's with the squad now, and you can totally see her smartness. She had her own episode of Tales of Woe. And yeah, like I said, she's a really awesome character. Hell, I'm a fan of Stella. So I don't know about
the reason why Stella works so well, better than Laird, is because, like, just like with Eugene, Stella has much more layers to her character than Laird did. Especially when we see, like, Stella really stands out because she's the only girl in Lincoln's squad. She stands out as being the most tech smart of the group. And she also held her episode, like, very well. And it's really helped by the fact that she has her own quirks, unique quirks that, like, make her stand out as a character on her own. Oh, and also, not to mention the fact that Laird's voice, like, just gets to my nerves. Like, it's just Laird's voice is pretty annoying.
What's wrong with the nerdy voice?
he always has that high pitched voice. It's like he's always nervous or something. Like he always sounds just like this because he's supposed to be the nerd, the nervous nerd of the group.
But it really doesn't work when he doesn't have more layers to his character other than being the butt monkey of the joke. So
Yeah.
honestly, his really annoying voice, like, is another trait that makes Laird, being Laird his own character, like, other than being the butt monkey of the joke.
Okay, yeah, we get it. Okay, so I want to move on here. Let's talk about how the episode went, because yeah, they were having movie night, but Arturo did come back early, and it turned out to be quite a horror show for the kids that were pretty much invading Arturo's place. I will start off with you, Vincent. How did you like how the episode went?
There was a good moments that I liked. First of all, the the juicer it wanted later to make her smoothie. That moment to win. It's hard. You just make her smoothie with that juicer. Of course, I was trying to call all the police because someone's trying to steal his juicer, and then they just hang out at him.
Yeah, the juicer. I mean, like, come on, it's a juicer. Are you really going to be going for the cops for that?
And then of course, when they told us that the monster, Ronnie tried to open the drawer, they're trying to. But they can't try to get the phones, and then she's like, "You see me jiggling." That was the wrong.
I love that part too.
And also Ronnie answered a message like, "Hey, this is Ronnie." Beep.
I love the message though. It's Ronnie at beep. Sorry, that was my beep. Here's a real beep. Yeah.
There was a really,
I would like that.
Those are really good lines. And then. And then of course, first off, who gets the skateboard? Nikki gives so Nikki's first when Nikki says if she doesn't make it, Sid gets her skateboard, and then gives Sid her skateboard.
Why does she need two skateboards?
Why does she need two skateboards? Yeah.
Especially Samir feels offended.
I actually didn't point this out, but I know Sid. I know in like team effort, Sid skateboards. But uses a hot dog pusher to pretty much push her in skateboarding. Now she knows how to skateboard. I forgot to point this out in Teacher's Friend, but she knows how to skateboard. Where had that been all this time? So apparently Sid knows how to skateboard somehow. Maybe Ronnie had taught her at the sidelines or never showed an episode. But hell, Sid's now a skateboarder. So it's good to point that out. And Sid loving skateboarding is interesting. Another thing I also do want to point out is I think with Nikki is a shipper. Like, she loves to ship people.
Yeah. I was so gonna point and talk about that.
Sorry, there's a ship that is apparently running around the fandom of the Casagrandes called Ronnie and Laird. And oh boy,
no!
I feel so
object, sir. I object, sir.
No, I felt so insulted about that.
I felt so shocked. I know Sunny was probably going to be shocked and say like, no, this is not real. Of course, it's not real. But maybe Nikki in her mind is probably saying, oh, they're too cute together. And the other thing too, that I pointed out too, is Sid actually agreed with that. I'm like, Sid, don't you love Ronnie Ann? Where's the Sadonican vibe there? Apparently there wasn't one there.
yeah. Honestly, like I'm not joking when I say it. Like, there are some scenes in this episode that might trigger the hell out of diehard Ronican shippers. Like the Ronican fans, like I can imagine them giving this, oh my god, this is a 0 out of 10. Ronnie Laird's not real. I'm just like, yeah, Ronnie Laird is not real. This is all an act. So for any of those Ronnie Laird, shippers out there, I have to say to you, I object. Okay, there is no Ronnie Laird. There is only Ronican. Get your facts straight.
Or just watch the episode and you'll understand why this ship is not going to happen.
Yeah, and then also like at the end when they realized that Lance doesn't have a crush on Ronnie, he just rolled his eyes. That was kind of funny. And also, if you're gonna ship with somebody, like try Nikki. I see some
Yes.
some
Oh my
art.
god! I have a friend who loves Laird and Nikki as a ship, and I think they should. I think that should be like a real ship or something, or I don't know. It all depends on how the Casagrandes go, but I can totally see those two to go. I can totally see those two.
Nikki was so hilarious. Like, she's like, "Oh my god, Laird's in love with Ronnie," and I'm just like, "But Nikki, you do realize that eventually Laird's gonna be yours in the future. You know that, Nikki, right?"
I don't know. It all depends on how it goes. So let's see.
Again, Ronikin. Okay?
Yes, Ronikin for the win. Yes, Ronikin. I have to say Ronikin. Or Sedonikin. OT3. Gotta love that.
Because the thing is, Laird is too lame for Ronian. Laird is way too lame for Ronian. Lincoln's so much better for her.
Oh yeah.
Like Ronian can do so much better than Laird.
And when Ronian realized the feelings of Lincoln, and if we see Lincoln interact with those guys again, I expect Nikki to ship them.
Yeah, I can't wait when that happens, where Ronian and Lincoln meet up again, and then Nikki's in the background saying, "Oh, I love these two. I hope they go up together."
Yes. Yes.
Now, I do have one more thing. The ending was actually kind of interesting because Laird actually is pretty rich, and he has a fountain that actually has him in it. It kind of tells me that is that his place, or is that his parents' place, or Laird being just fancy rich? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand the whole lesson now. It's like, yeah, you don't. Okay, so coming into this episode, I thought Laird was just like he didn't want to show his place because he was poor or doesn't want to show like a really run down place. But it turns out that he turns out to be rich. So I guess it's just lesson learned there. It's like, yeah, I understand. Like, you don't want to show, you're kind of embarrassed to show your place. But at the same time, I'm like, you're loaded, man. But I want to understand also the aspect of being rich, too. Because you don't want to have, like, friends that take advantage of you. Things like that. So I can understand Laird's perspective of, like, why he wanted to change to a different house instead of his own. But yeah, I can understand the aspect of what Laird did. I don't know about you guys. How did you feel about the ending?
You want to go?
I mean, if you want to go first, you have the floor, man. I'll go after you, man.
Okay. Well, I gotta say, some of us aren't really surprised that Laird was rich. The way he's kind of dressed and all. I always saw him. When we first see him, he's kind of like the punching bag in the series. It's always getting into a lot of accents, but I never, honestly, I can't lie. I never thought of him being rich. For a guy who gets into a lot of accents, he's that wealthy. And Sonny choked that he doesn't really get a lot of health insurance there. Yeah. That's that.
All right. How about you? How about you, Abid?
Honestly, when I saw the ending and I saw how rich Laird was, I was sort of questioning why Laird would be so embarrassed to hide his place from his friends. Because when you do think about it, like, Laird's life is so luxurious. Like, Laird's place is so big, it's so grand. It's pretty much the place that everyone wishes it was. But then it kind of got me thinking. I think the reason why Laird was desperately trying to hide his rich place to begin with is honestly because he's embarrassed to share his wealth, his status, his class with his middle class friends. Like, honestly, it sort of reminded me of how Token got so embarrassed for being ripped on for being rich by Token's own middle class friends in South Park. The one where, like, Token is tired of being rich and all that stuff. Like, honestly, Laird's dilemma in this episode sort of reminded me of that. So after really thinking about it, I can sort of see why Laird would go out of his way, go through extra lengths to try to, hide his place, because his place shows how wealthy he is and how much of, how upper class he is in comparison to his lower class, middle class friends. And I think the reason why Laird is doing what he did is because he's trying to desperately get away from being ripped on like Token was. Like he's, he thinks that they're gonna look at Laird like, in a different way if they ever found out that he's rich. So, again, at first I sort of questioned why, but then after really think about it, it sort of made sense to me like afterwards.
I see. All right. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about Home Improvement.
Also, I want to point out Arturo getting squished in that couch. It was kind of like roasted in that episode. I can't remember what the name of it was.
It was Away Game.
Yeah, that episode.
Yeah, I don't know what, but I'm guessing when you're squished inside that couch, you get all crammed up like that.
Kind of like that, yeah.
It's kind of cute.
It's sort of what happened to Rosa too. It happened to Rosa at one point.
It did happen to Rosa. All right. So, how would you guys rate this episode?
Go
ahead.
Me? All right. So I'm gonna rate this an 8 out of 10. Like honestly, most of the jokes really landed, and to be honest, it's not because of Laird himself. I felt that Laird didn't really, didn't leave as much of an impression on me in this episode as Laird's friends and Arturo. Honestly, I feel that every other character in the episode besides Laird actually made this episode work. It made this episode really funny. The jiggling joke, the shipping Nikki joke, the juicer joke, like Arturo gets some funny lines, especially with his obsession with his juicer, and also that really funny line at the end, that really funny gag where Arturo, after checking out Laird's place, is like, "Can I pretend this is my place?" Like honestly, I laughed so hard at that. I was just like laughing my guts out when I heard it. I was actually laughing my guts out this episode. Like honestly, this is one of those episodes where like I said, the jokes really do land, and this Casagrandes episode ends up having some of the funniest dialogue you'll ever hear in a Casagrandes episode. Like maybe not the funniest, but it's one of the funniest dialogue that you'll hear from a Casagrandes episode, and not coming from Laird, but coming from everyone else around Laird.
Nice.
How about you, Vincent? How would you rate this episode?
I'd say I get this, but 8 out of 10. It's not my favorite, but for a late episode, it was kind of interesting. I feel like his friends what helped make this episode somewhat interesting and to watch with some of the jokes and all that. Good jazz.
I have to say though, this episode was actually pretty entertaining. Yeah, it might be a Laird episode, and we were still debating if we need a Sid episode coming up. But for a Laird episode, it does give me a little bit of more of a character development of who he is. Apparently, he's rich. He is a quirky kind of guy. He's nerdy, but at the same time, I love how the squad continues to just support him. And they are okay with him going to a rich place, or to his place, for example, to go watch movies. Now that they know that he's rich, I'm pretty sure that all the movie nights are going to be at his place now. But yeah, I have to say though, I mean, good for Laird to actually have his focus episode, and good for the Casagrandes to actually put it up for him. And I have to say, 8 out of 10 for me. Really exceptional, really funny, and yeah. It makes me a good impression for Laird. All right, lastly, we have our final episode to review tonight, and it is called Undivided Attention. The synopsis here says, Carlota can't seem to pay attention to anything but her phone, so Carlos sets her up with a math tutor. Although, to be honest, this episode, I mean, it's another Carlota episode, and I just wish Carlota had more focus in this. I mean, Carlota did have more focus in this episode, but it just feels like it's kind of a little unimpressive to me. The fact that she continues to be on her phone about a video game, and I'm like, I don't know. It's not really that impressive, but I want to talk to you guys about this. I do want to give a shout out to the Native Americans who were actually represented here. The tutor was actually Native American, and sometimes they're not being represented as much in media. And I love how the Casagrandes did that, and it's a huge honor for those who are Native American to actually get appearance here at the Casagrandes. So shout outs to them. How did you feel about this representation for this ethnic group here? Omid, we'll start off with you.
Honestly, I thought the Native American representation was very well done. I love how the Casagrandes was one of the first to give Native Americans proper representation, and with the proper representation being enhanced by how likable of a character Charles is as a tutor. Honestly, it made the Native American representation even better just by the fact that Charles, a Native American character, was, like I said, he was really such a likable character. He does his best to help Carlotta out. He has his breaking point where he gets so fed up with Carlotta's obnoxiousness and unwillingness to learn, to pay attention. So honestly, you do feel for Charles, and you could pretty much see why Charles is getting so frustrated at Carlotta. So honestly, but then at the end, he does warm up to her after she apologizes to him. So he decides to help her out because he does see at the end how much she meant her apology, and he knows that she wants to learn this time. She wants to pay attention so that she can pass her exam. So honestly, I felt that at the end, the chemistry did work with Charles and Carlotta. Even after everything that Carlotta put Charles through, major props to Charles. Even after she put him through all that, I do admire his patience. I admire his willingness to help. And like I said before, he's really the kind of tutor that anyone would want to have.
I see. How about you, Vincent? How do you feel about Charles in this episode?
It was nice that the Casagrandes were representing a Lakota character. Yeah, and also let's give a shout out to Robbie Damon. If you're a fan of Infinity Train or even Spider-Man, yeah, he's Charles.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was a good voice actor.
Yes,
he really is top notch.
Yes, and he does it. I like him. He does his best to help Carlotta, but I think we can relate because she's just paying attention to too much to football that she doesn't really pay attention to what it's about. She thinks it's a date, and then she doesn't want anything to do with Charles, and then gets kind of frustrated with her to even taking this seriously, and then. He has his breaking points, and with the librarian, but with of course, at the end, Carlotta apologizes, and she realizes what she's been doing. She's been paying attention to her phone, and she realizes this mistake, and she wants her to make it right. And Charles was also willing to help her once again, and that chemistry worked out really well between those two. But I think we can relate to Charles in this episode, and I thought I liked this character because he was a smart guy, willing to help out Carlotta, despite her not being too focused in this episode at the end.
I see. But yeah, I mean, it's just cool to represent Native Americans. And I love how Charles is. It's just a normal guy. He's just, a tutor for Carlotta, and just the fact that he is just dealing with whatever Carlotta's doing. Yes, she's always distracted on her phone. And the fact that she keeps on getting distracted on her phone, thought that her dad was pretty much setting her up on a date, but just not. And the other thing too is that Carlotta also was playing this game, and I just feel like for Charles, getting her attention, doing all this just to make her grades go up, is quite adventure for him, and I feel bad for him. But at the same time, good representation of how the tutor works and how Native Americans are being represented here in this episode. Now, my thing here is that about Carlota, I don't know how you would feel about her, but I want to talk to you guys after this episode. Did you guys like her a little more, or did you guys kind of feel a little disappointed about her? Vincent, we'll start with you.
I don't think we will exploit much about her character. There wasn't really much development. You know, she's just kind of stuck on a phone, and then she she definitely could pay attention a little bit more and step on her phone. Yeah, but I didn't feel like that there was much. There was much to Carlota's character aside from the fact that she was just paying attention to a phone too much.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Abid? How did you feel about Carlota shown in this episode?
Now, I can see what they were trying to do with Carlota as being, the prime example of a character who is so addicted to her phone all the time. I can see what the episode was trying to do with their character. Like, they're trying to show how teenage girls can be so addicted to their phones. Like, for example, let's take Lori Loud season 1 of The Loud House, for example. Like, I think that they're trying to make that sort of version of they're trying to make a season 1 Lori Loud version out of Carlota in the Casagrandes series. But the thing is that in this episode, like, not only is she unattentive, like, not only is, she not paying attention, she also came across as obnoxious. Like, honestly, I understand that she's purposely trying to be obnoxious in order to get Charles off her back. But the thing is that, she goes through extra lengths and, like, even picking on this poor guy. And like I said, you can't help but feel bad for the poor guy because all he's doing is trying to get her to pay attention because Charles is trying to do his job as a tutor. And, and honestly, like, the real benefit of Carlota's character is that it gives a huge lesson that I think society in general, like society as a whole, really needs to learn, especially nowadays, which I will touch upon later.
Yeah, so like I said, Carlota, we had so many episodes for Carlota to actually improve herself. I mean, VIP, I think, was the closest one to say that Carlota was okay. But I just keep on seeing her as an influencer, a person who's on her phone, a person who just loves to be on the latest trends, fashion setter. The list goes on. But there's nothing about her character that makes me like her, to be honest. It's just a character that just is obsessed with her technology, obsessed with having a lot of fans on the internet to say, makeup, all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of like a basic girl. And I thought this episode would actually help Carlota out a lot more. It doesn't seem to be the case here, but yeah, I don't know much to say about Carlota in this one, but I thought we had some opportunities for her to actually be okay. But yeah, the ending on the episode, I understand that it was pretty much Carlota just, you're being too distracted on your phone. You totally forgot about this finals. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. You're too distracted on your phone. You got to get into, you got to get your grades up and everything. First off, that was the reason why Charles was there. But of course, being too distracted in what Carlota is doing, it doesn't make sense what the lesson was going to be all about. Just, you be too distracted on your phone, that turns out to ruin pretty much how your life is like running. Omi, you can touch your base on this aspect. How do you explain the ending for this episode?
Now, what I like about this ending in particular is how Carlota comes to learn her lesson in this episode. And this certain lesson is what I believe that, like, not just myself, and not just yourselves, but also society as a whole, like humanity, like nowadays, really needs to learn. And it's the fact that, you got to look around to see what's around you. You got to pay attention to your surroundings. It's kind of like you got to put down your technology, your electronic devices once in a while in order to do your tasks, like your job, your homework, your chores, and all that stuff. And like, just like iBreakfast Spot, like this episode, I feel presents a social commentary about how we as people, we as humans, rely so much on technology and all that stuff. Now, whereas that episode touched upon using technology to do all your work, like this episode shows how humans use technology as a form of media consumption, like as a form of being addicted, being glued to a certain game. And in this episode, we see that with Carlota playing Fashion Safari like way too much, like being glued to her phone like this, like she neglects her surroundings. She neglects her duties. Like, for example, she neglects to change Carlitos' diaper. She neglects to see that, Bobby and CJ were trying to build a, house of a deck of cards. And she neglects to help her own mother with the groceries. So because of this, like it's gotten up to a point where Carlos, yes, honestly, I feel that Carlos, this is definitely one of his best appearances, mainly because of the fact that we finally see Carlos like actually stepping up as a disciplinarian, like as like a real father. And what I mean by real father is that she, of course, scolds Carlota. She calls Carlota out on her addiction. He is saying how she really needs to step it up on her grades and all that stuff. And he even points out her addiction. So what he does is that he goes out of his way to make sure that Carlota pays attention to her work. And so when he tells her that that Carlos set up Carlota with a tutor, like Carlota thinks that it's a date, like because Carlos said, "Oh, it's a date," but then she doesn't know, due to her being on her phone, like due to her not listening, due to her not paying attention, she thinks that it's a date, like it's a literal date. And so due to her negligence, due to her addiction, due to her not paying attention, that is the reason why Carlota thought that it was actually a date instead of Charles tutoring her. And like even when Carlota meets Charles, and even when she thinks that it's a date, like even in the library, like she cares more about her game than actually focusing on Charles himself. And honestly, it shows, what I like about this episode is that it thoroughly shows the consequences of addiction. It shows the consequences of negligence. It shows the consequences of like being so heavily addicted to something that you neglect to pay attention to your surroundings, because it irritates those around you that are trying to help you, right? And it also keeps you out of touch with the world. And honestly, due to her addiction, this could have cost her her grades. It could have cost her her future had it not been for the fact that, Carlos called around in the end and pointed out to her that it was actually, tutoring. And that's when Carlota realizes that she messed up and that she decides to put her phone down, like once and for all, and actually apologize to Charles for her obnoxious behavior, and also vows and even promises to not just him, but to herself, to focus on her duties, to focus on her grades and her future from now on. And honestly, I feel that that's actually a lesson that really hits hard, because I feel that it's something that, we as humans, like we tend to be in Carlota's shoes. We do tend to be like Carlota at times where, we can't pay attention to our jobs and instead pay attention to, our media that, like it keeps us out of touch with reality. And I feel that this episode demonstrates well how we need to get in touch with reality in order to benefit not just us, but also benefit our future and benefit our relationships. So honestly, due to this hard lesson, and due to Charles being so great, so likable, and due to Carlos having one of his, best appearances, I feel this episode really does hold up.
I have to say, you just pretty much explained the whole episode there. That's a lot there. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much was the lesson in that episode. But anyways, I don't know what else to say from this episode. I must say, I don't know. What else do you guys want to bring up from this episode?
Oh, let's not forget. When Carlota was playing that episode, one of the competitors' name was brought up, and that's Lenny Loud.
Yeah, apparently Lenny was in this episode.
Yes.
Like, well,
Lenny was playing it too.
Oh,
Lenny was playing it too.
In this episode, but she was playing that game. But she wasn't actually physically there. It makes sense for those two to actually talk about fashion and play in a fashion game. So, good stuff there. I didn't know Carl was into fashion too, but then again, I guess he wants the money. So
Yes,
she can get he just wants to get his own, fashion line as well, or like gets into real fancy clothes.
Too bad that money got wasted because of Sergio.
Yeah, Sergio again came in. Oh, he has to ruin everything. I get it. Sergio's the person who just loves to ruin stuff.
Now I'm wondering.
I mean, like that's a big. Great, awesome that Lenny actually does appear. I swear to God, like we need to have more Louds actually come into the Casagrandes. I know we get Lincoln and Lori, but who's next? Could be Lenny, could be Lynn Jr. or who knows? Like I would imagine there could be more Louds coming into the Casagrandes. I can't wait if they ever do that, but we'll see. Then again, they all appeared in the Christmas episode, but
yeah, but it was for 5 seconds. 5 seconds. It could have been more.
They're physically there. They were all physically there.
My friend, it should have been more. It should have been 5 minutes.
It should have been a whole lot more.
Seconds, not 5 seconds. 5 minutes at least.
All right. So let's pretty much go for the ratings here. How would you rate this episode? Let's start with Vincent here.
I think I give this probably about an 8 out of 10. It's I get what they were going for because again Carlotta being distracted by not paying attention, but it was a good pretty well executed episode for what it is.
Okay, how about you, Abid?
Honestly, I give this an 8 out of 10. Honestly, Carlotta herself did come off as obnoxious. Like, I understand the purpose, but still, she was too obnoxious even for me. Like, or even I got as irritated as Charles. But then again, on the other hand, like all the things that did work in this episode really did work very well. Like, I really liked Charles as a character. I really liked the Native American representation. I really liked Carlos's role in this episode and how he was the one to step his foot down and pretty much tell Carlota enough is enough. Like, I like that we finally get that side of Carlos. And most importantly, I really loved the lesson, this really hard lesson in real life that honestly, I feel that, not just Carlota, but not just me, not just you, Vincent, either, but also everyone in society. Like, most people in society really need to take this lesson to heart.
I think I'm the only one person to say that I thought this was a potential for Carlota to actually improve or to actually have some good character development. But I have to give this a 7 out of 10. Kind of disappointed about this. I really wish that Carlota would have a really good potential episode. It didn't seem that way according to what I just saw from this episode. It's just, you had your potential chance to actually have Carlota be like an impressive character. Or to be as an impressive character like Carl or CJ or Bobby, for example. But then again, it's not there. So again, we'll just have to wait for another episode to see if Carlota actually can give us like some good character development. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Not really impressive. I thought Carlota could know better from getting out of her phone and things like that. I understand the lesson in that, but I think Carlota should learn better about their own phones and stuff. So yeah. All right. So that's pretty much it. Wow. 2 hours and 13 minutes in this stream.
Actually, Nate, before we go, like, honestly, I have this really fun game for you. All right. Do you want to do episode rankings? Like, like if you were to rank all these Casagrandes episodes that we talked about from worst to best, in your opinion, like your least favorite to most favorite, where would you rank it? How would you rank it?
I would say least favorite would be Teacher's Fret. That's everybody's probably cup of tea there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would go for best because right now Dynamic Do-Over versus an Udder Mess, because both of them are really good. I gotta give it up to an Udder Mess. I have to say that's a really amazing episode about friendship and stuff. But
ranking
close.
I mean, ranking from least favorite to most favorite, like all the episodes.
Oh, let's talk about this block here. Man, that's gotta be a lot to think about. But I know that Horoscope's still number one.
All right, cool.
Horoscope's still number one.
If I could do my episode ranking from number 8 to number 1, my number 8 being my least favorite to number 1 being my most favorite, I'm going to say this. Number 8 is definitely Teacher's Fret. It is a god-awful episode. I hope to never see it again. Oh, and by the way, and also on a side note on Arturo and Ms. G crying at the end, I really have to say this right now. You two are not Frida. Okay, that is Frida's stick. You do not kill Frida's stick.
Frida,
okay?
oh my god.
And to quote Rosa, get your own material. So Teacher's Fret is number 8. Number 7 for me is no Egrets, honestly.
I kind of want to do this like off the side. I just want to go for best and worst because we don't want to, take a lot of time out of this.
All right, number 7, no Egrets. Number 6 for me would be Undivided Attention. Number 5 would be Home Improvement. Number 4 would be number 4 for me would be Meal Ticket. Number 3 would be Breakfast Spot. Number 2 is An Udder Mess. And my number 1 favorite out of all of them, like I said, Dynamic Do-Over, one of those few perfect episodes of the Casagrandes overall.
Okay. I guess, Vincent, if you want to also be a part of this as well, just give me your worst episode and the best episode from this block.
Okay, so of course, Teacher's Fret definitely at the bottom of my list. Number 7, probably no Egrets. Number 6, probably let's see. Probably maybe Home Improvement. Number 5 would have to be oh boy.
Yeah, you got to make us think now. I mean,
if you want to skip to number 1, that's fine. If you want to skip to number 1 best, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3. I'll just go skip number 3. Number 3 will probably had to be number 3 would have to be oh god. The Bobby and Carl episode.
Oh, Dynamic Duo. Dynamic Duo.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I enjoyed it. Number 2 for me would have to be Meal Ticket, and number 1 would have to be Another Mess. And I'm not just saying it because I'm the biggest Sidonic fan, but yeah.
You know what? We're all Sidonic fans. I think we all won when that episode aired. All right. Well, I'm not going to take out a lot of your time out of here because already over 2 hours long. But Vincent, thank you very much for joining in the stream here and being a part of our Loud Casa Talks. So thank you very much for joining and reviewing our episodes. If you do want to put out your socials so that they can follow you, go ahead and put it out there right now.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on. It was a pleasure to be on. So I have Twitter. My is at Vincent Sophuok, Sophuok. My full name. You'll find me there, and then I have an Instagram. It's my last name, Sophuok. So you'll find me on both those on both those platforms. You'll find me. I'm a big animation fan. If you like what I post, check me out.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much, Vincent, for joining in. We'll let you go for now, and we will hopefully get you in another episode of Loud Casa Talks.
Dude, thank you so much for joining us, man. It was such an honor having you here, man.
Hey, it's great talking to you guys.
Later, Vincent. Oh, all right. Well, that's pretty much it for our stream. So if you guys want to follow us, you can listen to us on our Loud Casa Talks over in our Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just go ahead and give us a follow there. You can also you can also check out on our YouTube page as well. You can also see our recordings, what we're doing right now. Make sure you subscribe to us and also hit the bell so that you can be notified of when we will be on. So yeah, that's pretty much it for our reviews. Our next episode is going to be talking about continuation, so we're going to have a pretty long discussion about this one. But anyways,
I mean long, yeah.
Yeah, there's a continuation problem with the Loud House and the Casagrandes, so I mean, but then again, it might have been fixed after season 5. We'll see. But anyways, thank you very much for checking out the stream. My name is Nate.
And this is Omid saying thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, smell you later, dudes.
Thank you very much for checking out the stream. See you later.